Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session of the Beginning Farmer Rancher Lunchtime Learning Webinar Series. As always, we want to acknowledge the support of the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture and their Beginning Farmer Rancher Development Program for their support of this ongoing webinar series. We are grateful for those of you who have participated in these live sessions and continue to do so. We'll have 2 more sessions after this week, and we're looking forward to those. Today, we will be hearing from Ronaldo Lemons and Rachel Kretschmar from the OKC Food Hub. And they will be talking to us today about some of the differences between what you might understand as traditional market farming and selling wholesale through an organization like a food hub, and some of the considerations that beginning producers might want to think about as they're thinking through opportunities in this space. And so with that, I will turn it over to Ronaldo and Rachel, and we will get started. Thank you, guys.
I want to thank Josh for inviting us here, giving us an opportunity to explain somewhat what wholesale farming or wholesale marketing as a farmer is, just to help farmers to think about diversification and doing different things to meet their bottom line. Again, my name is Ronaldo from OKC Food Hub. I am the producer support position, and partner is Rachel Ketchmore here.
Yes.
Yeah, they can see right there. With that being said, not 100% sure what the format or formalities, just to welcome everybody that are here, that have joined us. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll try to get to those later. We'll get right into it. And can everybody see the slides that we have, the slide that we have up?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so this first slide is just our introduction. Now this one does say scaling for wholesale farming, market farming versus wholesale farming, a transition guide exploring the key differences, costs, and benefits. And so there's we're gonna go through some of the differences in market farming and wholesale farming. Okay, you're switching page. We're working as a team here, so we've done it. Oh, there you go. Okay, so pretty much everybody has an idea of what market farming is. So we'll just run through this really quick. The key characteristics of market farming are a smaller scale, focusing on diverse crops for individual sales. And the customer base is a direct to customer, direct to consumer customer base, farmers market, CSAs, farm stands. The pricing is a premium local price that you can get. The logistics, while simpler, the logistics are probably more, it takes a little bit more work and more effort to pick up and load and unload, and then, bring your tent, bring your tables, and all of that. You're probably going to have fewer customers, and you will be dealing with direct sales. The profitability, there is a lower initial profitability just due to everything that it takes to get into the market and all the equipment and stuff that you need. And it just depends on, it's very dependent on the market or the season at the time. All right, so for wholesale farming, basically we're just nailing it down to supplying businesses with volume. So Some of the businesses would include institutions, schools, grocery stores, and also partnering um, with businesses, HR departments who have wellness programs, say like a Paycom or a Chesapeake, which is no longer here, but different entities like that, businesses that may be um, cafeteria type businesses, or businesses that have cafeteria that feed multiple people. Um, senior citizen living centers, as an example. So some of the key characteristics of that would be a larger scale, a higher volume of production would be needed and specialized in, and you would probably be focusing on a limited number of crops. Uh, the customer base, again, will be supplying the businesses, the pricing. So you may not get, and most of your produce items will not get as a higher, it will be a lower price per unit, but you will get the overall volume would pretty much make up for the lower price. Logistically, so direct wholesale can be more complex, involving distribution and aggregation. Now, this is based off of if you were doing this yourself. If you were trying to do wholesale farming yourself, the logistics of that will be very complex for you. But with the OKC Food Hub, just to keep this in mind, we handle the complexities and the distribution and the aggregation. So it becomes more of an asset for you to be able to sell wholesale. The profitability, there's a potential for higher long-term profits with efficient operations. So the more you get efficient on what you're growing, how you're growing, and how much you're growing, and you know your numbers, with wholesale farming, you'll have a better, uh, a higher potential for higher income and profits. Okay, we're gonna skip that.
Are we gonna do it?
I don't have it together.
No, we're not. I
Okay.
just wanna make sure.
Yeah, I don't have that together. I'm not seeing it. Okay, there we go. So just again, just a review. You know, they say repetition is the key to keeping things in people's minds. So on one side you have market farming, on the other side you have wholesale farming. Some of the key elements again for market farming is a smaller, diverse crop, direct to consumer, direct interaction with customers, a higher per unit premium pricing, simpler direct sales, high risk with market variability, lower investment, and gradual growth over time. So it's going to take you 3 or 4 seasons of farmers markets, doing 3 or 4 farmers markets per week to kind of get the growth probably that you're looking to get to. And that's still dependent on the demand at that locality at the time. With wholesale farming, you're looking at a larger specialized crops, not so much monocropping, but just a larger specialized group of crops. Again, your customers would be businesses. Negotiating contracts with wholesale buyers, that's something that you wouldn't have to do because the Food Hub is doing that. We have a standardization. We've come up with, standard pricing and, the way we do business with those wholesale buyers. So you'll get a lower unit, higher volume sales, more complex logistics, which you wouldn't have to worry about, lower risk, stable wholesale demand, because cafeterias and grocery stores and hub stores, they constantly need this produce on a weekly basis, not just a one-day basis. And so you have a high initial investment as far as infrastructure and equipment. That's something we did talk about before. So with wholesale farming, it would be beneficial for you to have certain equipment, to be able to buy certain equipment to help you. Infrastructure as far as cold storage, or just any type of storage, hoop houses that can extend your season, which all of those things are something that you'll be doing as a growing market farmer. So it is something that you don't have to have in the dealing with OKC Food Hub. You don't have to have all of those things ahead of time before you get into it, because we deal with you in a way that you can do what you're doing at the moment and still grow into those infrastructural equipment needs over time. Then the last thing would be the potential for a higher long-term profitability. Is this your turn?
I
think it's Rachel.
Yep. All right. Hi guys. Yeah. So when you're thinking about if you're ready to grow to wholesale, which I know this is the beginning farmer rancher venue, but when you're kind of, when you're starting out and you're probably doing mainly farmers markets, something to keep in mind is as you grow and you become more comfortable with your production, kind of do some, some market research about, are you kind of, do you think you've maxed out at your local farmers market? So understanding your local demand is an important part of it. What your buyers are really needing and wanting and what kind of competition you're facing. And also in deciding if you're ready to grow your business to more of a wholesale model, you're going to have to do some business planning. So developing a comprehensive plan, which I'm sure that's something that Dr. Campbell has talked to you guys a lot about. Just different things like covering increased production, how you're going to market, and handle all of your financial information. That all, if you're increasing your market and your reach, those things are all, potentially going to require more time on your part. So risk management is also something that we have to think about, which I know is hard for food farmers. Commodity crop insurance. Yeah, so Emily, we're going to talk a little bit. We got a question on the chat about how to transition to wholesale. So yeah, we will absolutely talk about that transition and things to think about. So as far as growing your, and this could just be growing your existing market farm also, but just implementing some risk management strategies, diversifying your crops, and building relationship with multiple buyers. So one way that you can diversify your buyers is, you can still do the farmers markets, and if you do some direct sales or have a farm stand, but you can also add in some wholesale buyers into that mix. Really defining your target market is going to be an important part of this. Deciding if you want to grow your presence at farmers markets, you want to diversify into wholesale, you want to switch to wholesale because you're tired of the grind of farmers markets. Those are all things to think about when you're, if you feel like you're ready to grow. Okay, so some of the steps that you can take towards wholesale are scaling up your direct sales to where you feel like you're at a point where you would be able to fulfill some of those larger wholesale orders. So like Ronaldo was talking about investing in infrastructure. So you might be looking at acquiring additional grow space, might be adding acreage, or like he said, adding high tunnels or greenhouses to extend your growing season. So investing in that infrastructure to be able to produce more if you need to build up your infrastructure on your existing location. That's a big part of it. You might be looking at, expanding irrigation, having cold storage on site, things like that Ronaldo also mentioned. Focusing on demand. So while you're market gardening, if you're running a stall at a farmer's market, it's likely you're probably growing several crops throughout the season so that you have a wide variety, right? So you can get people to come over to your booth, your table. But with wholesale buying, you can ideally you'd be able to kind of focus on some key crops. So instead of growing maybe like 20 to 25 different things in a season, you're focusing more on maybe 5 things that you're really good at that you like to grow. And maybe that can be like your wholesale pitch, right? So, and also as you're moving towards wholesale, logistics are going to be an issue. And streamlining your harvesting, your packaging, and your delivery operations. So figuring out how to get those things done on a what could be a pretty tight timeline. Whether that means more labor or more like a bigger wash pack space, which also kind of ties into infrastructure. And then planning your finances and just making sure that you can really keep track of where you're going and planning for those things that always pop up for us in life, but especially when you're doing something new with the business.
Can I say something about that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I guess
Anytime you want to just jump in.
improve logistics, so the harvesting, the packaging, and the delivery. So what I have noticed with some of our producers, so most don't have a labor force out there harvesting. So it's one or two people who are harvesting on a wholesale level. So you're talking 100 pounds of cucumbers, 100 pounds of onions, onions or tomatoes or whatever it is. So you take those in account that you're harvesting, hundreds of pounds, you're boxing hundreds of pounds, you're storing and delivering hundreds of pounds of certain items. And again, it has its advantages and has its disadvantages. If you are harvesting and packing and storing, 100 pounds of this, 100 pounds of that, and it's getting sold, it can kind of put a light on, I don't know how many pounds that you're taking to the market of what item, you know what I'm saying? And so just kind of weigh that out and kind of give you a vision.
Yeah, and I think another piece of infrastructure that I just thought about when you're talking about logistics, if you are scaling up your farmer's market sales, you might have to invest in like a refrigerated trailer or something like that as you're growing. That'll be important, whether you're just increasing your market presence or if you decide to start selling wholesale and you're transporting stuff over a longer period. Okay, and so this just kind of reiterates all those things that we were talking about, like as you're scaling, you don't have to scale, you're not going to want to switch to wholesale like before you've scaled, right? Unless you're just done with farmers market. But if you want to keep doing farmers markets, you can scale on the side while working towards wholesale. And so that, that's going to include increasing your production, the additional equipment. Maybe you need different planting and harvesting equipment to be able to do it on a larger scale. Irrigation, additional labor, removing field heat quicker on larger quantities of what you're harvesting can become an issue. So that's something to keep in mind. Like I said, expanding wash pack capabilities so that you have an opportunity to run more stuff through there. You're going to need expanded cold storage, and then just working on developing, what you're really good at growing and what works really well for your site. All right, so this is assuming you've scaled up your production and you're wondering what's next, right? So some of the things that we've been talking about wholesale. So there are a couple of different routes you can take with this. You can do direct wholesale, where you're maintaining relationships with restaurants and different partners like that. You can work with a food hub or a combination. Maybe you still want to do a little bit of wholesale. You still want to do farmers markets. You want to do a little bit of wholesale, or you want to do wholesale while still having like your farm stand. So you still have that interaction with your buyers. So if you're thinking about direct wholesale, like I said, that would be where you are responsible for maintaining those relationships. So it's one farm, many customers. So you're responsible for finding those buyers and maintaining the relationships and then getting product to those different spaces. And the marketing of all of it that goes along with that too. Those are all things that take time. And if you like doing those things, that's great, you know, but chances are maybe they're not your favorite. You want to be on the farm, actually farming. So that's where a hub can come into play. So the OKC Food Hub, what is a hub? This is kind of a question we get a lot. Basically, we're an organization that is in the middle. So we're connecting multiple producers to multiple buyers, and we take out some of those steps in the middle. So like we're handling marketing, aggregation, distribution, we're handling the invoicing and payment collection and all that kind of stuff. And at the Food Hub, we're doing it all while building a values-based local food system together. Okay, so this is just kind of expands a little bit on what food hubs can do. So like I said, that marketing piece, that's a huge piece. I know a lot of producers, you're spending a lot of time on social media trying to promote, hey, we're at the farmer's market this week, look what we have. If you're doing individual shares for CSA, there's marketing that's going into that. Or a farm stand. I mean, there's a lot of time that I know you guys recommend spend on marketing, trying to get customers to buy your product. By using the Food Hub, we're kind of taking that and running with it. So we are the ones that are actively searching out new buyers and new channels for product. So if you really hate being on Facebook, you know, Ronaldo specifically takes care of that. Aggregation. So with the OKC Food Hub, currently we have a Tuesday aggregation and delivery. So every Tuesday, our producers bring us their product that's sold to the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. And we aggregate all of it. And then the distribution piece of it is that Ronaldo gets it out to where it needs to go. So instead of maybe going to 10 different places, you know, if you have restaurants and maybe a hub store that you're selling to, instead of having to go to all of those places individually, by noon on Tuesday, you're done. You've done your drop one place, and then we take care of the rest. So some additional benefits of working with a hub. I think one big thing with the aggregation and distribution of it is we're handling the stuff on the back end, like invoicing and payment collection. So that's one thing that direct wholesale, you would be responsible for doing all of that. Whereas if you're direct wholesaling, whatever sells, you're dropping off on a Tuesday, and the following Tuesday, you're getting paid for those items. Even if that means, you know, if we're selling to a school, a lot of them are not going to pay for 30 days. So instead of having to take that risk on your own, you know, farmers are getting paid 7 days after they drop their product. But a couple of other things, crop planning. So we do production planning on an annual basis to help align what you want to grow and what you're good at growing with what buyers are interested in. So we can kind of match some of those things up. Farmer support. So Ronaldo, like you said, he's producer support. So he's on farms constantly, you know, just to kind of see what your operation is like and maybe be able to connect you with some resources that might be helpful, whether it's technical assistance or, you know, like funding assistance through NRCS or things like that. And then facilitating access. So he's kind of your point person, right? He can kind of point you in the right direction if you're not sure about something. The last thing that I want to talk about is increasing access. So by selling through a food hub, you know, we're building a bigger market for local food in Oklahoma, and so your reach could be a lot bigger than it might be if you're doing direct wholesale or selling on a produce stand. Might increase access as far as schools and things like that that are really hard for an individual to deliver to several sites within one school district. But you know, our partners take care of that for you, so you can have a lot bigger reach in feeding your community. Okay.
Before
Yeah.
we do that, and I can do we want to address
Yeah.
Lauren Moscato, who asked Is it just produce that we are looking for, or because we are a cattle ranch and have beef? Is that something that is option? Sorry if it was answered, the Wi-Fi cut off because of the storm. All right, so I think that's the whole question.
Yeah.
And we get that question a lot. At the moment, we are just taking produce. We want to expand to eggs and dairy. We want to expand to meat. Um, all of those things have different guidelines in transportation and refrigeration. And we don't have the infrastructure at the moment so we're still building that infrastructure ourselves, building cold storage. But it may be coming really soon because we do have a contract coming up maybe in a week or two. We'll be kind of having availability of cold storage. So it's not out of the question, it's just in the works. Did you want to?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. Do we only drop off what is sold or do we drop everything we've grown? Okay, that's from Emily Rizecki. Now, what I would say, Ms. Rizecki, so in the past, in our beginnings, with certain LFPA funding, we were able to allocate funds to farmers to buy whatever that they dropped off pretty much, or whatever that they uploaded onto our platform. But without those funds, you would just drop off what was sold from the platform through the market. All right. I hope that, did that sound okay? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically, in the past, we had federal funding, where the food bank, the regional food bank of Oklahoma was buying a lot of produce from us, and that funding is gone. So yeah, right now we're looking at what you sell is what you bring.
And I'd like to say thank you to Josh, because you are able to, as a local beef grower, we are in partnership with hub stores, and they do take protein at the moment. Thank you. Then last one before we move forward. Okay, where would we find out more? Is there an email list for it? When you say email list for it, what particular?
Like to sign up as a beef producer.
Oh,
like for us
okay.
to buy from is how I'm taking it. So
Okay.
yeah, for updates in general. Yeah. So we also have a newsletter that you can sign up for on our website. So if you go to contact us, you can check the little box that says sign me up for newsletters, and we send out a quarterly newsletter. And so that's a great way to know updates. And as we expand into proteins, there will be our application process will be open once that happens, and you could apply to be one of our protein producers.
Okay, she's saying for updates in general.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So now we're gonna my background is in accounting, so now I'm gonna kind of take it into like the numbers.
Talk about the money.
Talk about the money.
The numbers. There you go. The numbers.
Okay. So I mean, anytime you're looking at a business, you're trying to improve your efficiency so that you get the most bang for your buck, right? So we're gonna look at revenues and expenses of wholesale, and your time, because your time is money, right? Your time is valuable. And especially when you're self-employed, that's really, really important. And then also some efficiencies that can come from scaling up your production. Okay, so this is like a really, really simplified example. Okay, let's say that this is all of your infrastructure is in place. You've scaled up your farmers market sales to a place that your market sales to where you're really happy, and you decide to completely switch to wholesale. So these could all look the same. That's definitely possible. I think one of the pieces that becomes really important though is your time. So if you're looking at time that you're spending, it's possible you could make the same profit, but you're going to be spending less time on certain aspects of your business. Whereas if you're direct wholesaling or you're completely direct to consumer, you're probably going to be spending quite a bit of time on marketing and booth time at farmers markets. That's just going to be something that's built into it.
Or you're spending money hiring someone else to be at your booth.
Yeah. So like administrative costs might be pretty comparable. Wash and pack might be pretty comparable. Like if you're doing wholesale, you might be running more produce through, but you're not having to bundle, all your carrots or radishes or whatever product it might be. You're just selling them bulk loose in a lot of situations. So you're going to be preparing more produce to go out the door, but you're going to spend less time doing things like that.
Preparation.
Yeah, the preparation. And so by kind of being able to take away some of that time, if you're not having to spend as much time on logistics, deliveries, and marketing, that can free up more time for you to be actively working in production on your farm. Yeah, so this is just kind of a very basic example of, the revenue could be the same, but you're looking at it, it could be a pretty drastic difference in how you're spending your time. Do you want to go over some of these? You want me to keep going?
Yeah, I can just read over it with you, and then you can chime in and give you a break here. Hub wholesale gains and efficiency. So we look at it starting from the top left. You have fewer crops to manage and a less diversity set of issues to mitigate over the season. Then next to that, we have an increase in specialization with core crops rather than a dozen varieties. You have less planned crop waste and overproduction. So that less planned crop waste / overproduction, what we have learned from our producers that do a major farmers market selling, that they actually have to grow, they have to overproduce in order to make sure that they have enough, and they don't sell out of something, and people are looking for it.
Like the idea that if you've got a really full table, it's going to be more appealing.
And even though they don't sell it all, it's more of a overproduction for marketing, for the look.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of crop waste. So that's kind of what that's talking about. More time available for production versus administrative tasks in running a farm, which again, just reiterating a bunch of things here. Less time spent promoting your brand, processing orders and payments, or scheduling a market, scheduling and making deliveries. So it's the time issue. Yeah, it's just a time thing, So
for a second, I forgot I'm the one that's clicking.
In conclusion, embracing wholesale farming for long-term success. This is a journey. We are in the beginning stages of our journey. We have made some impacts, I believe, in the food system. We are continuing to focus and work on the food system that would enable a beginning farmer or a small farmer to at least get into the wholesale game as a way to diversify and to create a viable income. And so this is a marathon, and we're all needing everybody to work together in all different aspects of this food system. Like the Dr. Campbells who provide education. That's something that we we can't do everything and provide education to farmers at the same time, but we do have partnerships with strategic people in the industry that we can source and use for whatever their specialty is. So with that being said, the key takeaways from this presentation will be transitioning to wholesale farming requires careful planning, financial management, and market research. And we can talk more about that. Also, partnering with food hubs like OKC Food Hub can significantly ease the transition, providing essential support and infrastructure. And lastly, the wholesale farming offers the potential for greater profitability through larger scale operations and long-term buyer relationships. And I just want to say again, based off of most of our producers, they continue to have their individual personal sales outlets. They continue to do markets, because, honestly, we haven't created a market to where they can quit their day job.
It's not an either or. It's
yes.
kind of at this point like an and.
Yes. So
to supplement.
Absolutely. But that's all I have. Rachel, if you have anything or if you have any questions, please. And here's our contact information. I would like to encourage as well for everyone listening to go to YouTube and search OKC Food Hub and like our page and subscribe our page so we can build an audience and give a lot of the updates and information on our YouTube page that reach a lot more people, but we need the visibility, we need the algorithm, as they say, to kick in for us on that. So as many subscribers as we can get. And it's simply just OKC Food Hub. Listen to the interview on there. We only have like one thing on there, so one or two things. And so listen to that interview, and that can give you an insight of what we are, in a way, dealing with, and give you insight on the direction that we are looking to go, and kind of help you out with that.
And part of what we're trying to do, we're trying to grow our food system by adding buyers, but a big piece of what we've discovered that we're doing also is the education piece about why local food is important and why we need to be supporting our local producers and why local food is better and all of those things. And that's something that I know you guys are probably all doing too. So there is a network of us. And we would really love any questions that you have. We don't have any of our producers on here that can answer questions directly, but I feel like between the two of us, we know a decent amount about what they deal with.
Thank you. Thank you both for what you shared with us today. Really great information about both how kind of wholesale structures work in general, and then how people can engage with you as the OKC Food Hub. I would say if you have any questions, please do put that into the chat now, and we can discuss some of that if there's some questions about how food hubs in general work and how you might work with a food hub, or questions about anything that comes to mind regarding wholesaling opportunities. I'll reference you to some of the links that I put in there just as a reminder. Very top, we do have an OSU fact sheet that goes over food hubs and farm market hubs and kind of some of the details that you might want to think about broadly. The OKC Food Hub website is also there. And then I posted a link from the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry, which has an inventory of the farm hubs across the state, if you're interested in exploring some of that as well. So would love for any questions that come to mind to be posted in the chat. And then while I do that as well, I'm going to put a poll out for everybody to take.